There we go. It worked. Now I can take my chat and move it and pop it out.
Okay, so we're online, huh?
Yep.
You go there then.
All right. Let's see what we talked about today. It's always interesting to find out what the subjects are on people's minds. Hey, there's 3 people on there already. So people were just waiting. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Nope, one came, one left. They come and go. Wait for those questions to come in and say hi. Now there's 6. I don't know about you all, but we've had quite the week. All unexpected as usual. I think we figured out what at least the second thing the Mercury being was warning us about was our plumbing. Roxanne says hi. Hi, Roxanne. Dan says, hey, everybody. Hi,
Hello.
Dan. Welcome. Glad to see you guys. It's windy here, but clear. Clear and windy. We don't have the extreme heat because we're on the coast. So we get that nice ocean breeze that keeps things cool, which is nice. Ruth says, hi,
Hello.
all. Hi, Ruth. Yeah, so. But it's definitely a nice day out there.
All right. Anybody want to jump in and be the first to ask a question or suggest a topic or
something.
just say something?
Anything. This is your channel, your show. You guys are in charge of all of the stuff that's in there, so yes. Yeah, so this week we had plumbing issues, sudden and unexpected. And Ian discovered a wrench and some steel wool inside the pipes. It's just like rusting everything.
A big wrench in your pipe can definitely cause a clog.
Very much so, a definite clog.
And it was in a spot where it had to have been dropped in there before the plumbing was even put together.
It was in the old
cast
like in
iron.
the main kind of
So this
part.
thing's probably been in that pipe since like 1950, causing clogs.
Yep, and it finally couldn't take it anymore and decided to back up into the bathtub. So that was fun. Yeah. So that was a couple of days worth of stuff. Roxanne says, I feel obsessed with crystals. Does size matter and should I buy a lot of them? I personally don't think that size matters. I think that color and the energy attraction that you have to the crystal is more important. You can spend a lot of money buying, better quality crystals like with rubies or emeralds or whatever, or you can spend a lot less and buy the mineral matrix that it's in, which is going to have particles of it, and still get the energy of that crystal if you want to work with it specifically. So I tend to go to rock shows. We have one a year.
It's more important is the purity of the crystal itself or what have you, as far as being, amethyst is all amethyst or whatever.
Well, right, because energetically it connects to all the other stones
but
or
size,
crystals on the planet.
Yeah, and size isn't a factor if you're charging one up either, because energy is compressible, so it really doesn't matter if you're using it to make something you're going to charge up to use for something. Size really doesn't matter either, except what's most convenient for you, because you can charge up any of them.
But hey, if you come across a big giant crystal that is free, never say no. You always accept large crystals that are free. I ended up with a big giant piece of amethyst. Apparently a woman that I only worked on once, who was a friend of the chiropractor's wife that worked with us. When she passed, she had collected these very large chunks of amethyst, and the chiropractor's wife didn't want to take all of them, so she offered one of them to me, and it's like 5 pounds amethyst. I'm not going to be carrying that around in my pocket. It's way too big for that. That's the other thing that's nice about small crystals. You can carry them in your pocket. Or you can put them in a container
Or
and
pouch.
put them around your neck or in a pouch.
I personally use a leather pouch that Siofra was nice enough to make for me years ago, and it's still going strong.
Yep. So Annie says, a quite literal spanner in the works, as they say.
Yeah, pretty much
yes,
exactly,
very
yes.
much
Yep.
so. So Roxanne says, should I wear my crystal close to my skin? If it's the kind of crystal that you want to have close to your skin, yes. But, it's going to depend on the crystal. You can have it in a pocket. You don't necessarily have to have it on your skin. Some people, the energy can be too strong with direct contact. It's going to really depend on you.
Yeah, my preference for things like that, if I'm going to carry in something, is something organic rather than something made of plastic or anything like that. Is like I prefer leather myself, an organic bag for carrying things like that in.
Yeah, or cotton,
Yeah, organic.
organic. Although this seems to not interfere with it, even though it is
Well, that's
metal. But it's made for that kind of thing, for carrying things to spread out as a Tibetan prayer. What do they call it? A Tibetan
prayer box.
prayer box. I kept thinking wheel, and I'm like, no, it's not a wheel. Yeah. So, yeah. So Anne says, I had a dream about a fairy, and she told me her name. Do you think it's okay to share her name with others? She didn't say, and I didn't ask in the dream. I'm not sure how to ask her and get an answer now. Well, that's a good question. Sometimes they don't mind, and sometimes they do. So until you can find out for sure, I'd err on the side of caution. If she's a well-known fae, and there's lots of people that already know her name, it probably wouldn't be an issue, I wouldn't think. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I guess I'd go with your feelings, your gut feelings on if it feels, if you're comfortable with that. If the spirit doesn't want you saying something like that, it'll probably make you feel uncomfortable when you go to say it or something. So pay attention to how it makes you feel, and everything seems copacetic. You can try that, but other than asking the being, I don't know.
So Michael says, hello, Siofra and Ian, blessed be, thank you for being here. Well, thank you for being here too, and you're welcome. Sheila says, plumbing problems also, no water, big bill, and it's still not fixed. Is this a bad plumbing moon? I don't know. I'm not the only person I know who had plumbing issues in the witch community. There was another person in the Medford area, two actually, I think, also were having plumbing issues, so it's your guess is as good as mine, but at least Ian is quite handy, and he managed to get it fixed. We were down to one toilet, period, for 2 days, and then he got all of that fixed, and then he had one more sink to get fixed on the third day, and then we were golden. So, yeah, I'm glad he is he's good at that kind of thing.
Some kind of things I can do.
Yep, and that's one of them. So Michael says, question, when we cast a spell, is there always something that we must give in return? Well, you are always giving your time and your energy at the least. And depending on what kind of a spell it is, you might be giving an offering. If you're using plant material, giving an offering to the plants that you're using, or
yeah, the only time you need to offer something in return is what Barden would call making a pact with a spirit being, which he doesn't recommend. I don't imagine you're talking about those kind of beings, though. But generally, if a being asks you for something, you can make the choice whether or not to give it to it. But other than something like that, if you make, like, say, a talisman to do something, or a pentacle or something to do a particular job and it doesn't involve any beings, then no, you put all the energy right into that. I'm going to make a Jupiter one and I'm going to put it all on video and show how that goes for prosperity. And so I'll go through that whole process on there.
I think that, that question comes up a lot because all of the shows that have a magical inclination talk about the price of magic. And I actually did a video about it and my thoughts on that because, it is just a common concern that people have,
Yeah,
especially in the beginning. More practiced practitioners tend not to have as much of a question about that, but it's also always a good question
because really,
to talk about.
Unless you're dealing with a being that needs something, like the Santeria deities need to be fed once a week, that kind of thing. Otherwise, you put the energy into the object. If you make a talisman or something, you've done it, you put the energy in there, that energy you put in there from the planet, for example, continues to work on it, you program it, and so there's nobody to give anything to and nothing to return. It's just effective on how much effort you put into it.
So we did that Mercury evocation recently, and I made a poppet for Ian's sister because the being asked me to when we were getting an update. And it made perfect sense to me because I put the energy into making the poppet and connecting the poppet to Ian's half-sister, and that gives the being sort of a connection and a source of energy that's readily available on this plane since he's coming from another sphere. So in that sense, he was asking for something in return, but I didn't mind doing that. It seemed like a perfectly reasonable request.
Yeah, and it was not something for him specifically, but to assist in what we were asking him to do. So
right, to make
totally
his
makes
job
sense to do it. Yeah.
Right, to make his job easier.
Yeah.
So Anne says, I've tried looking her name up but haven't found anything about it. Thanks for the advice. Michael says, 3 on the plumbing issues. Well, okay.
Yep.
And gotcha. Thank you both. Much appreciated. I'll definitely be looking for that information, Ian. And yep, exactly, Siofra. Makes sense. Thank you both so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Apparently I have a scratchy throat. I didn't bring my water in.
Oh.
Lulu says, hello everyone. Hi, Lulu.
Where is it? Go get it.
It's on the table next to the chair. Thank you. Ian's going to get me some water. It's like a little bit of an odd smell came through. So, how are you doing, Lulu? And I can't believe there's yet another person who has plumbing issues. What's up with that? It's like, man, that sucks. Ian has always had to do work on things himself throughout his life, it seems. He thinks it's part of his karma. Because, the one time I took our car, this was years ago, in for tune-up because it was running so well and I just thought I'd do something nice. The mechanics messed the car up so much we could never get it right again. Yeah, so it was one of those lessons. Who knows exactly why. Lulu says, very hot, the weather, not me. Yes, we're lucky that it's not too hot here because of the sea breeze. Thank you. I talked about your apparent karma to have to fix things yourself.
Oh, yeah. I guess it just seems to be a thing with me.
So he's learned how to do a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And it's kind of it's interesting though, because he rebuilt an engine in our van, which he's never done before. And he got instructions, a video, and all this other stuff. We had an employee at the time who was trying to help him with rebuilding the engine, and the guy was so convinced that Ian couldn't do it that Ian had to make him go away and leave him alone because he was interfering with his ability to actually do the task, because his belief in the impossibility of it all was so strong, which is sort of very interesting. Lulu says it's a Virgo thing.
Still runs.
My husband is a Virgo and is always fixing things. Maybe so.
Could be.
You are a Virgo.
Yep.
Violet says, hello, hello, hello. I am in the hallway knitting a giant garment on the floor. I'm listening. Okay.
Star, that sounds like fun.
A giant garment. And Lulu says, yay, a Virgo thing. LP says, hi, Siofra and Ian. My empathic sensitivities have suddenly increased dramatically. It's a bit disconcerting. Do you have any idea what could have caused it? Well, as you evolve and develop and your own stuff starts to fall away, then your abilities increase and more information comes in. So my recommendation would be to work on the shielding. And like, you know, I have the bracelets that I wear, not all the time. I've been trying to practice lately not wearing any, but you know, I've got bracelets to keep strangers' energies out of my energy field, because like I wouldn't invite them over for dinner. Why would I let them in my brain or in my energy field and have to feel their feelings? So I'm trying to create energetic boundaries with total strangers, at least. So
if you do a lot of work with water, the water element, you're focusing on that, that will definitely cause an increase in those type of abilities, and also in your clairvoyance and clairaudience potentially and things like that.
And you know, doing grounding exercises, and really the secret to being a high functioning empath has to do with the ability to maintain an emotional distance from everyone else's feelings. You can see them, identify them, know that they're there, know what they are, but you actually don't have to feel them yourself. And I've learned that with being a massage therapist and working on people in pain on a daily basis, and so had to develop that. Otherwise I'd be walking home feeling like I'm crippled every day. So LP says, thank you. It's gotten so that I can't even be around people this last week. It came out of nowhere. Ian, water, yes. And you know, when you're out in public, if you're having trouble, you can actually use water to ground it out too. Washing your hands, going into the bathroom. I do that in between clients. You know, the act of washing the hands and letting their energy drain out of you so that it's not stuck in you, kind of thing, as an emergency first aid for empaths.
Well, that definitely helps if you get, especially if you get stuck with a bunch of energy you don't want because you're empathic to somebody who's really putting out something negative or something. Wash that stuff off in a sink and wash your hands.
LP says, I've been spending a lot of time in the river lately. I learned that it's incredibly cleansing and charging. Yes, it is.
Of course, that's about the best place to do it, is running water. That's about the most ideal possible.
So Shay says, hello, dear ones, here during my lunch break. Hi, Shay. Thank you for dropping in and saying hello. It's always good. So yeah, practice, practice, practice. And when you need to, just stay away. I mean, we have, you know, we go through different emotional states and phases, and we have to pay attention to them. So if being around other people is just too much, stay away from people. Or only be around people that you can trust, and, you know, do what you can. Opie says, I feel like my energetic windows have been blown wide open and the throwing their energetic garbage in.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I went through that for quite some while. Got my natural defenses stronger eventually.
When that was happening to me really intensely, I would go sit inside of a tree. There was a tree where we lived that had been burned out with lightning, and it was in a local park a little bit out of town. And I would actually go there and sit inside of the tree and just be surrounded by the tree, and that helped a lot.
Yeah, that's a good statement. I once told my mother, who was had her lots of problems. She got really pissed off though, but I told her, I'm not your psychic garbage can. Quit dumping this stuff on me. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but it makes them feel so much better when they do. That's why they do it.
It just made her have a furious mad explosion.
Well, I'm sure it did, because, you used the word psychic. How dare you? She knew you were satanic to start with, and then you knew that word. So.
But that was exactly my image, was like being used as a psychic dumping can, and anytime you go over there, you get all this shit dumped on you. It's like, that's all fun.
And it's actually a pretty common social convention. People vent to other people, and then the person who vents feels better, and then the person who's been vented upon has to figure out how to get rid of it.
Yeah, depending on how sensitive they are. Thankfully, most of the people who get that done aren't that sensitive, but boy, for a sensitive person, that can be a big, unpleasant experience.
So Bep says, greetings from a little island in Croatia, listening to you guys from my little tent. Well, wonderful. We love it. LP says, you guys are such a gem. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Lulu says, I lived with no permission to have boundaries and was a narcissist magnet since childhood. Thankfully, now I'm older and don't feel guilty for having boundaries. Congratulations, because I know from personal experience how hard that is to gain. Because I wasn't allowed to have boundaries either. They were a definite no-no in our house and in the extended family as well. Whenever we had, I hated Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, because that's when the whole extended family got together, and you were never given the choice. Everyone got the right to hug you, kiss you, touch you, do whatever they wanted, and no one ever said, is it okay? And I don't like hugging strangers in particular. I mean, if I know someone really well and have known them for a while, I love hugs. But when it comes to just random people who just come up and decide that I need a hug,
well,
I'm
there's so many issues there. Even though I didn't have those issues as a child, I did have a lack of boundaries. I was allowed no privacy. If I wanted privacy, I had to lock myself in the bathroom, basically.
So can we let that message go through? I don't see anything wrong with it.
I don't either.
Lulu says, worst is when they blame you for being sensitive. Yeah, well, that's the narcissist and sociopath. That's what they do. They like to do things like, you're too sensitive. I have that a lot. And I decided I thought about it, and I thought, maybe you're just not sensitive enough. It's not that I'm too sensitive. So anytime someone says, you're too this or too that, they're trying to put you down and put you in a box and make you feel inadequate.
He says hello all, so I'm going to say blessed be to be.
I'm sure B loves that. Phoenix Claus says, LP, do not feel bad. I'm empath also, and it's hell on earth. It's very hard to live on this planet like we are not welcome. Protect your energy from most people. Most people are infiltrated by archons. Which I think is an alien thingy. I don't know. Lulu says, or that you don't understand jokes. Oh yeah, you don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Don't you just love it when someone comes up and says,
Sometimes
you know what?
the jokes just are so
you
bad.
You really need to smile more. You look much prettier when you smile. Makes me want to punch them in the face. Seriously.
I did have a game I played with Siofra for years. I had a joke I kept telling her, and the reason this worked was because the joke was so awful and so stupid she could never remember it again. So I keep telling her the same joke over and over for years until finally she remembered it.
It was pretty funny. We were getting ready to go to bed, and he starts to tell me this joke, and I stop, and I think, this sounds familiar. Have you told me this joke before? And he goes yeah.
It was just a little teasing thing on my part that was fun since, it was so bad. That was the thing. Such a bad joke.
Yep. So LP says, narcissists like to gaslight. Yep, you betcha. Phoenix Claw says, Siofra, do you like the Benny Hill show? I haven't seen it in a long time. I watched it here and there.
I liked it at the time, but it would be totally different from my taste nowadays.
Yeah, probably.
I liked it when I was a teenager, though.
He says, exactly. All my manipulators would do that. It's just a joke. Geez, it's no big deal. And then they would use that to gaslight me. Well, just kidding, right? Yeah, they would say something really mean and nasty, and then just go, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It's still mean and nasty. And if you're kidding, it's not funny. Phoenix Claw says, gaslight is their weapon. Yes, it is. Lulu says, I've been told that all the time. Smiling. Yes. It doesn't have the desired effect, I don't think.
Yeah, and I found, to my own observations, that most of those kind of jokes all have something mean in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And a truth.
you can make jokes without them being mean, but usually the people who say those mean things, there's some truth in those for the people who says them. They have an attraction to that slight darkness or meanness in them, I think. But I don't care for any of those. None of the mean jokes or things.
I think
don't
I have a
suit
pretty
me.
good sense of humor, but
Yeah.
it's not like biting, cutting, putting people down type.
Yeah.
Because I don't find that kind of stuff funny. Being an empath, I feel for the people they're making fun of. I'm just like, that hurts. That's not nice. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's just kind of a personal thing, but yeah.
So AE says, first time I've caught you live. Well, congratulations. We're so glad to see that you're here. This is a loose live show where you get to ask the questions. You are a literal treasure. Well, thank you.
Well, I agree with you on that. Thank you
so
for
glad.
telling her that. She needs to hear that.
He says, yeah, jokes are supposed to be funny. They're not funny if they're punching down. There's definitely a difference between harmless razzing and gaslighting harassment. Yep. Absolutely. And, okay, so the other thing that happened this week was so bizarre. So we were getting a lot of stuff organized in our house, making room for my granddaughter so she feels more like she's part of the family instead of camping out. So we're going to buy her a dresser. So we go to Goodwill, and because she finds a dresser, and I go up to the counter, and I'm like, okay, so I can't pick up the dresser right now. I can pick it up in 2 days. Can you hold it for me? And she says, no, we can't do that. We can only hold it for 24 hours. And I'm like, I'm going to pay for the dresser. So you're saying that if I pay for the dresser in 24 hours, you're going to resell it to someone else? That doesn't make sense. She goes, let me call my supervisor. 2 supervisors later, no problem. I'm like, of course, I didn't think there should be. So then we go to drop off all of our stuff and pick up the dresser. So, you have to drive through and you're sitting in line. And there's a lot of heavy stuff. We had all kinds of things to donate. And it takes them a while to get them all out. And then I give them the ticket for the dresser, so they go to get the dresser. Apparently that was taking too long for this older gentleman who was in his car in line. And he decided to come over and start screaming at the top of his lungs, yelling at us for being so inconsiderate. And me and my granddaughter are like, what? What's going on here? That was odd. That, people have just so lost the ability to be patient, to wait, to, be kind and considerate of others and everything else. It's just like, it's just crazy.
It's unbelievable to me, a lot of it is, but I have to believe it because you see it, but yeah.
So Phoenix Claw says that most empaths are born into narcs families. I'm almost 100% sure of this. I'm not sure what a narc family is, but I was definitely born into a highly dysfunctional and horrific family setting where a lot of abuse, torture, and sexual abuse happened. So if that's what you mean by narc, then I agree with that. Lulu says it is also very used to assert control over foreigners, like you don't understand English jokes even after years over here and a graduate degree in this country. I supposedly don't understand culture or language. Oh,
Yeah.
that's just annoying. No, your joke just isn't that funny. Is the response to say.
So by narc he means narcissists.
Ah, narcissists. Don't think my father was a narcissist. He was an alcoholic. He was a sadist. He was a homophobe. He was a racist. But I don't think he was actually a narcissist. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that. Phoenix Claw says, yes, people are much too afraid of people's opinions. This is true. B says, Lulu, oh gosh, I haven't even thought of that aspect of it. That's an excellent point. Well, it's a way of just keeping people down and trying to get them off balance.
Yeah.
And, it's like, not good. It's not an effective way to run a culture.
Yeah.
That's the whole power over, power under structure.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it's all about. In order for that to work, there has to be someone under you. Otherwise, you don't have a position up on somebody, and you only have people over you. And so then you're always an underling. And so this battle comes into play where, you know, everybody is trying to get people under them in order to feel like they've made it somehow in society. So my father, the head of the household, everything he said went. He was the king. We weren't allowed to question or say anything or whatever. And he could do whatever he wanted in his own house, that type of thing. So I don't know. Venus Claus says, because absence makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah. But anyway, it was a relief when my father died. I was happy.
Yeah.
So his absence made my heart grow very fond of my own self and my life. Like, whee!
My
Awesome.
father was more or less okay, except for some racial stuff and that type of stuff, which was just, again, being a product of his generation more than anything. But
B says, part of being a narcissist is being unable to admit what you have done. It's a discomfort of the self for them, so it's possible. Well, if that's the definition, then that's quite possible, because certainly admitting any fault of any kind was definitely not something he was interested in. Even on his deathbed, he declared he couldn't be an alcoholic because his liver was fine. So, ha! Phoenix Claus says, I still cry when I think of my parents. It's not the same without them, and my sister is a narcissist. I'm sorry. He says, however, narcissistic traits don't make a narcissist. Yeah, there's all these definitions of things. Opie says, the whole having people under you to feel better about yourself thing rings a bell. Reminds me of a super insecure, materialistic family member. I want to turn him into a toad.
why be redundant?
Well, that's what
To
Starhawk
quote
said.
Starhawk.
Yes. Someone asked Starhawk once if she could turn people into toads, and she responded, why be redundant? I've always liked that response. Phoenix Claus says, well, in that case, be careful. Ha ha, my joke. He says, Phoenix, bless you. Also, ha ha, and thank you. Yeah, well, the whole structure of society with the power over power under thing is one of the things that's keeping us from evolving.
And some people can't, some people really can't handle it. We had an employee at our store that could not handle
Equality
equality.
and respect.
And he had to either push for him being above or below us, one of the two, solidly. He just couldn't handle the idea of
And
us all working together in
He
cooperation.
flipped back and forth from one side to the other over and over and over again. It was very confusing for us for a while.
He couldn't just settle in. He had to find his place either above or below. There was no, which I still think is odd, but it does go to show you that some people just can't get out of that way of thinking.
So Phoenix Claus says, I like your comment, B. I wish I could love a bee sting, but I don't. Haha, another insane joke of mine. Lulu says, funny story. A dude literally met me a second ago, and the first thing he asked was, so what does the man who brought you to this country do? What? That is so ignorant. He didn't know that I came here for school, but assume that. That is just plain ignoramus stupidity. I guess he's of the ilk that you have to belong to someone of a male persuasion in order to be able to make it anywhere. Yeah.
Well, I am definitely at odds with our culture in general because of things like that. I wish there were an ideal place I could go move to that would be better, but
there isn't.
Yeah, there is. Doesn't seem to be.
Not really. Yeah. We still have all of the cultures on the planet have got the same power over power under.
Yeah, pretty much.
Base that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So Phoenix Claus says, I'm Capricorn, but at times I wonder if I'm from another sign. I don't know. I'm Capricorn, and I'm just me. Lulu says, because I was from Eastern Europe and am female, I came here to marry. Yeah, gold digger, right? Phoenix Claus says, to marry? Well, I'm available, Lou, but I'm from Quebec. A little too far, perhaps? And says, I want to be a witch, but don't know where to start. I have a video that says, beginning witches, where do I start? Start there. B says, I mean, if you think about it, part of why those types of people feel down and back up again is because the source of their lack of self-understanding and acceptance, they overcompensate.
Yeah.
Yeah. AE says, I want to join a commune, but they are all very culty. Yes, they are. And so far, I've never seen one that actually worked well. Unless they're really working with consensus and respect and equality, and it's not religious or spiritually based, but just human based. Because when you get spirituality and religion in there, then you're going to have power struggles within the community, and people are going to be more evolved than other people, and then all that stuff gets started. So, LP says, Lulu, my mailman told me that if my husband ever divorces me, that he'll take me, postage paid. Oh my God, that's so gross. I'm from Eastern Europe as well. It was a horrid mail order bride joke. Not funny. I mean, you're not chattel to be bought and sold. That's a sign of a bad person. Stay away from them. Don't have anything to do with your mailman, except let him give you your mail. It's just, yeah. My granddaughter met somebody in a parking lot that started off. First thing he said was, "If you were mine, you'd never have to work a day in your life." I'm like, red flag. Yeah, here's a big red flag. And he turned out to be an incel, so not a surprise.
So I'd like to give a little more attention to N just before we go farther along, because that was Siofra is right. Her video is about the best place to start. It covers some various things, topics. I don't know if you cover shadow work or.
Well, I cover about you're starting. Where do you start? How do you figure out where to start? And the thing is you can start anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you start.
So, yeah, but that video will give you some good ideas, and then you can go from there. I didn't want you to think the question was just being not taken seriously or something. So, okay.
I like that you went back. But it is, I mean, being a witch is a lifestyle choice, but it's also a way of being, and it takes time to get there. Just wanting to be one is not just the only thing to do. Phoenix Claw says, well, just do witchy stuff. B says, that's why I just chill as a solitary. Yeah, I understand that totally. Lulu says, sorry, I'm married to another immigrant. Will be 17 years this year.
You missed one.
Oh, I did?
One right above it. Phoenix Claw?
I just read that.
Yes, what is
just
your best
do witchy
movie ever?
stuff. Oh, I haven't gotten to that one yet. Oh, well, you're right. Okay. Phoenix Claw says, Siofra, what's your best movie ever? What Dreams May Come, The Fountain, The Fisher King, Fearless. Those are my favorite movies.
The old one with the old Fearless with
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's a new one called that.
Well,
there's also an
couple other
interesting
things,
movie
yeah.
called House of Cards that I recommend with
Tommy Lee Jones.
right, Tommy Lee Jones and Catherine Turner.
Yeah, it's about an autistic girl.
Or Kathleen Turner.
It's really good,
Yeah,
and
very pagan.
the photography is very nice, and that's what caught my attention in the first place, was how nice the scenes were photographed and filmed, and yeah, it's just a beautiful movie.
Yeah, and it's very, very much, it's very pagan. It is like, and not like pigeonholed kind of thing. It's one of the things that I like about it. It's about grief and loss and ways to try and
deal with
that
and fantasy
from a child's point
little
of view.
girls like, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something.
Yeah, something
young.
like that. But that's pretty awesome. LP says, yeah, I didn't talk to him much for the next year. I don't blame you. I wouldn't talk to my mailman if he said that to me. AE says it's hard because even if you remove yourself from society and join a commune, it's still a group of people who are raised under the social conditions of capitalism. It will take a long time to undo.
And I'd like to add a quickie thing to that also I consider groups that are organized and work, and even successful ones like the OTO, which has gotten pretty big, but it's still got that underneath everything, you know. You start something like that with the hopes you're getting in with a bunch of enlightened people, but you know, you find the same arguments and things you do anywhere else, because people are just people.
Yep. No matter what the language they're using, they're still doing the same issues, just using a different language base to do it in. So Phoenix Claw says, Benny Hill said, care for some nuts? Balloon Head says, hi, what did I miss? Oh, we just solved all the problems of the universe before you got here. I don't know. Phoenix Claw says, blah, shadow work is boring. I like the way I am, good and evil at the same time, and sometimes a little bit insane, but then again, being Odin isn't easy. I don't find shadow work boring at all. I found it very empowering and enlightening, and it was nice to take my power back and be in control.
Well, that's just it. It can free you from all this crap, especially if someone has PTSD. It's highly recommended.
So Tanya says, we started watching this series on Netflix called Via Spoof on 8th Century Vikings. It's hilarious. It's called Norsemen. Yeah, I started watching it, but it's a little bit too campy for me. It's just one of those things. Tac1 says, is it possible to learn to control the weather using magic? Some people are able to do it. I have personal qualms about doing it because if I pull the weather here from somewhere else, then maybe somewhere else isn't getting the weather that they need. So I don't know. But for short little things, we've been able to do that when we're going to be doing a local ritual.
Yeah,
And
we've done best by asking them.
Yeah,
asking
we've
the
implored
spirits.
the beings and the gods and local spirits or whatever to keep the rain off of Maypole celebration or off of our Lunasaw when we were doing that down on the beach. And the weather complied. It like cleared a space just above us.
Yeah, there's tales actually that of Barden doing weather control that's factual. His son, last I heard, was still alive and could recount a bunch of these things, but he's getting pretty old. I think the last I saw him on a YouTube interview about 5 or 6 years ago, and he looked like he was very elderly. But yeah, Barden has actually done that, and people have saw it and recorded it, and yeah, these people are still alive and mostly hanging around in Denmark or thereabouts, I think.
I met a child once who did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So there's like a car full of us adults and a couple of kids. And we're on our way, I was in Texas. We're on our way to like a fair, it's like Greek theme, mythology fair or whatever. And we're looking at the clouds. The sky is just covered in clouds. And we're talking about what's going to happen if it starts to rain. It's going to get all muddy. And, so we're having this whole discussion about the weather and what might happen. And then the kid says, what clouds? What are you talking about? And we looked up and there were no clouds in the sky. I have no clue how that happened. It was impressive because certainly the rest of us saw clouds and then they were gone in an instant. So you never know. So Phoenix Claus says attack one, it's possible. B says, oh hey, I'm autistic and it's pagan, sign me right up.
Well, if you like very touching movies, it's a great one. It really is.
And it's actually not autistic.
Yeah.
They diagnose her as autistic,
Yes.
but it's not autism, true autism that she has.
Yeah,
but it
but
is
it's
incredible.
Yeah, highly recommended.
So Angelica says, can you be a witch and a healer, for example, energetic crystal healing, but also do spell work? I guess I'm asking if there's a name for that.
Witch?
Yeah, the name for that is being a witch. I'm a healer. I do distance healings. I do massage therapy in person. I do Reiki. I work with crystals. I do spell work. I just made a bunch of poppets. I did a video on how to make a poppet, which would be considered a form of spell work. It's just, being in tune with nature and natural forces. And there's a lot of different expressions for those. So you're not limited to one thing or another. It's, yeah. It's not limiting, it's expansive. So Phoenix says, I like to control thunderstorms. Of course, Angelica, your resume can be an infinite amount of abilities. Balloon Head says, Angelica, I think Siofra is all those things. Thank you. I think I am too. It's always good to get verification externally. Lulu says, I am over groups, prefer solitary existence now. Phoenix Claus said PTSD. Angela said balloon head, yes, same. B says post-traumatic stress disorder. Lulu says I have PTSD from how I've grown up. B says same here too, and same with Ian.
Yeah, but you know what? I'd say PTSD or no, at this point, I've come to the point where I have no desire to work with groups in general. I mean, I'm fine with going to like a group celebration of some sort or something. But yeah, I think I've had enough of the whole group idea. You just can't. It seems impossible, especially in a small town like this, to get enough people who are close enough to being on the same page to make it work.
Well, yeah, if they're not on the same page when you say something, they don't hear what you say. They hear what they think you meant by what you said, and but how they would interpret those words, and so communication is tricky. So Lulu says, but I encountered people who managed to blame me for having PTSD. Go figure. Yeah, that's pretty classic, actually. If you were just not like that, if you didn't just think that way and allow them to do this to you, blah, blah, blah. It's not like you have any control over it when you're a child, and they're just idiots. B says, oh gosh, that's just classic gaslighting. I'm sorry you've gone through that. I hope your future is more bright. Phoenix Claus says, PTSD, power of thunder, South Dakota?
Well, I was in a Georgia thunderstorm once, and I might believe that.
Wow.
It was incredibly, amazingly loud.
I was in a Texas thunderstorm, the loudest thunder I ever heard in my life. Shook the entire building I was in. Woke me up out of a sound sleep and almost knocked me out of the bed. I was like, wow. It nearby.
It was generally frightening just because I wasn't used to hearing any thunder that loud. I mean, it's a big difference between anything I've ever heard before.
So Angelica says, thank you. And B says, I wish. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that at some point in everyone's life, regardless of what's happened to us in the past, we have to take responsibility for how we behave and what we do going forward. But that doesn't mean we're responsible for, the condition that our parents or other people have laid upon us that we then have to figure out how to deal with. And so, that doesn't make any sense that people would blame you. They're just stupid people. Tanya says, I feel too self-conscious practicing in front of others. I can let go more and get deeper when I'm alone. However, doing things like drum circles are pretty powerful. Well, absolutely.
And that's one of the promises of a group, that you get a bunch of people's wills acting together in unison.
If you can get them on that one page, even for 5 seconds, it's pretty incredible.
An amazing amount of power you can generate with a bunch of people, but it's so tough to actually make that happen. I mean, counter currents and all kinds of things, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when you put more people together, it is an exponential energy flow happens. So,
it's also like an exponential craziness.
Well, there's that as well. I mean, the internal politics and projections that people have on other people and whatnot. I mean, I did a video on solitary versus coven, where I go through a lot of the experiences I had in both of those environments. And of course, working with Ian, I guess I'm not officially a solitary when Ian and I work together, doing things.
We're both two solitaries working together?
Yeah, we're both two solitaries working together.
That really is...
I guess is one way.
Because, if we were apart, we'd still be doing it. Still be doing the same stuff, so...
Yeah. Okay, so LP says, we had a blizzard snowstorm here last year. It was wild. Balloon has, I'm in Georgia, and the thunder shakes our windows. Yes. Jack 1 says, unfortunately, I have PITB disorder, or so my wife says.
Oh,
pain in the butt.
Cute. I think I'll remember that one.
Okay. Wife probably knows. Phoenix Claus says, about shadow work, we empaths are triggering people into shadow work by forcing on certain people near us. Why they attack, they refuse it. Well, I mean, it's the clearer that you are and the less stuff that you have collected around you in larva thought forms and so forth, the more likely other people are going to be affected by your energy and feel uncomfortable around you because you're making them have to see their own stuff and they don't like it.
Right, and if your aura gets strong enough, their larvae get repelled from your aura, so being near you means their larvae are getting repelled, so they're going to definitely feel uncomfortable because of that.
Yep. And that's just the way it is. LP B laughs out loud. LP says blizzard thunderstorm. Sorry, I figured that's what you meant. I didn't want to assume. Phoenix Claus says PITB, painless intestines, terrible butt.
Sometimes I have that ancient Chinese disease, dragon ass. Sorry. Excuse the profanity.
B says that sounds amazing. Yeah, we actually had one here. Thunder, lightning in a snowstorm. In snow thunder, they call it, I think. That's only happened a couple of times, but it was pretty interesting because we don't get snow that often to start with. And then we ended up getting thunder with the snow. And it was like, wow, that sounds like thunder. It's like looking out the window. Trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we might get snow 3 or 4 days a year or something like that.
So Phoenix apparently liked your joke. Lulu says it seems like in time my child may join me on the same path, but I won't push or even suggest. Oh, you mean your actual child, not your child's self. Yes, I know how you feel about that, because they have to make their own decision. This isn't a path for everyone, that's for sure. And he says, do you have a video on or could expand on what you mean by larva? I do have a video on larva thought forms and something else. But yes, there's a video about it where I can expand on it more.
Yeah, basically they're just not always created by yourself, but the majority of them are apparently created by yourself, not on purpose, but accidental. But they have a little bit of their own wanting to stay in existence, so they help to make you stay addicted to
whatever
things,
it is that created them.
Yeah, whatever it is that created them.
Yeah, larvae can be formed by physical addictions like tobacco, alcohol, some certain drugs.
But also psychological addictions.
Right, like sex addicts or kleptomaniacs or whatever. You know, some compulsive behavior that a person feels they cannot stop will create a larva. And in order to get free of whatever that happens to be, you have to, when you try to stop the activity that created them in the first place, they fight to try and stop you from stopping, because they have what Ian called, you know, they have a vestigial kind of wanting to stay alive. They're not truly alive, but they have
they want to maintain their existence.
Right, they want to be there. And so, and those are the things when we were talking about when people have larvae and they get around you and you don't, then those larvae get uncomfortable because they're now in the presence of someone who doesn't have that. So
yeah, and
it makes the person feel uncomfortable because then they may be questioning their choices of activity and what they're doing.
Magical workings tends to strengthen a person and drive them away.
Yeah. So, ooh, random, but have you ever met a tree you could sit inside of? Yes, I did. I had a tree I sat inside of. I talked about it just a little while ago in this episode, actually.
I don't even seem to have that one.
Yeah. Well, there's been a number of them that have gone by.
There's Phoenix Claus said, I like snow, but I don't like minus 30 degrees Celsius.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Well,
so...
Since you just explained larvae, I thought...
Phoenix Claus says a tree. Well, I like Three's company. I could sit there anytime. Oh, yeah, I see. I like snow, but I don't like minus 30 Celsius. That was the one right after the larva one. So, Phoenix, LP says at Phoenix, you wouldn't like Northern New York then. And he says, thank you both. I'll take a look. He says, that's fascinating. Phoenix says, Northern New York? Well, maybe. I would need to go at least once to be sure. Louisville says, I met a tree like that. One trunk grew massive branches that are comfortable doing inviting.
Yep, trees are cool.
And he says, that makes sense. Balloon has said at Phoenix. Phoenix says, last winter in Quebec was freezing. Balloonhead says, funny. I love it when that happens. Okay. Yes, I remember.
My internet's acting up.
Yeah, so is mine. So hopefully we won't lose people. Tack 1 says, what are the pillars on each side of you, Siofra? These are PVC pipes that I painted to look like lapis and then put a brazier on top that we can light on fire. And this is the south altar, so that would be what these are. B says, the trees here do grow big. I live in an oak forest, but they never grow big enough to sit inside. Well, none around me have. However, I do adore having so many old oaks near me. Well, the one I could get inside was hit by lightning and had hollowed out, or was burnt, I think, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've seen them before that have been burnt out by lightning like that.
Yeah.
Fact is, there's one up near Agnes, a big one. That was a big myrtle, I think.
Yeah. So Phoenix Claw says, in Scotland they have awesome old houses with old weird trees. Yes, that's it. You read my mind. An oak tree forest. AE says, do you feel that all addictions are accompanied by a larva or just certain cases? Well, if it's a true addiction, there's a larva that's associated with it.
Yeah, and it'll help you kick the addiction by getting rid of the larva. But
Yeah.
Or if you kick the addiction, the larva will gradually dissipate.
Shrivel up.
It'll take it time, but it'll shrivel up and die if you stop feeding it. So that's the way, one easy way to get through larva is if you realize that you got something like that going on, just stop whatever activity is feeding it. And if you don't do that, if it can't make you repeat that activity over and over again usually, then they'll just shrivel up and die. And I guess they can go elsewhere, but I think mostly, unless they're given a target, they wouldn't, they just die.
Yeah. They try to dissuade you from giving up whatever it is. And, Ian went through that when he quit smoking, and circumstances kept creating themselves around him that he would normally have lit up for, and that's the larva, trying to prompt the person.
Yeah, even after the physical addiction is gone, the larva could stick around.
Yeah.
And work on it for a while.
He says, I dream of a home with a tree holding it up. Oh, Baba Yaga?
No, that's not Baba Yaga.
Well, that is
It's
I
on
guess
chicken
that's
legs.
I guess it's on the chicken leg, not on a tree. But still, made me think of it. A says, just seems like almost everyone's addicted to something. Well, we may never get rid of all of our larvae. It's just a process. Sometimes you need things in order to for other things to work.
The word addiction implies to me that it's something that you don't want to do, you are impelled to do regardless of not wanting to do it.
And that's interfering with your ability to function, to enjoy life.
If it's something you just like and enjoy, I wouldn't call it an addiction at all.
Yeah, it's something that disrupts your life.
Yeah.
So, he says that's a lot of larvae. Oh, well, my system to destroy addictions worked. I eat 3 to 4 eggs each morning, and voila, is what Phoenix Law said. And AE says that's a lot of larvae. Balloonhead says, I'd love to be able to sit in a tree one day. I imagine sitting in a warm, dark tree with light coming in to help ground me and make me feel safe.
That actually sounds great to me, too.
Yeah, me too.
Frankly.
Barring that, sitting with my back against a tree and my hands on the ground by the roots. So Phoenix Claw says, Siofra, do you know of a ritual to help me win the lottery? I need moolah, money, etc. I wish, because I would have won the lottery about 10 times by now.
And I'm going to do a video on how to make a prosperity talisman.
So we'll see if it works.
That was going to be my next video based on the Tree of Life Kabbalistic diagram.
So B says, like a tree house. Tack 1 says, sorry, I've been meaning to ask this before this. I thought they were incense burners. Larva?
Oh, maybe the columns.
Oh, well, the columns. Okay. Well, they could be. I mean, you could put incense in them because, there's a foundation of Epsom salts in it, and you could put one of those charcoals in there and burn incense. But
I keep wanting to.
I know you want to light them.
I want to show one for the show.
No, not now. I'm too close. We'd have to do it and make a video. We
Uh-oh.
can, nope, we can just show them.
Well, sorry. I'd like to show them to everybody, but
You can make a video and show them to
apparently
everybody.
I've been outvoted.
At least for now. We have to move it. There's a curtain too close. Gotta be safe. Fire is dangerous. So Phoenix Claw says, just be yourself. Prosperity amulet, I'm sold. He says,
Yeah, it's based on Jupiter.
I think the lottery just affects too many lives. Spell work can only go so far after all. Well, this is true because it's a huge working. No doubt about it. Phoenix Claw says frankincense doesn't make sense. Apparently she's on a roll.
Only makes frankincense,
That's right,
I guess.
frankincense. Jane says, what's your favorite grounding exercise? Okay, so my favorite grounding exercise is the sacred tree meditation that I do. It was one of the first videos I actually put out. I really like that exercise because it has so many different elements to it. The imagining being a tree with roots in the ground, and then the trunk, and then the light coming down. It's a wonderful meditation. It really helps a lot with connecting. I did that one when I was volunteering up at the local prison. That was one of the things that I shared with all of the inmates that I worked with, was that specific meditational practice. And I think there's nothing in it that is dangerous or hazardous to anybody, although I could be wrong. So people have to use their own sensibilities if there's something in there that they think would, like, I don't know, have a bad reaction to. Which is why the first video of it, I go through and explain all the different steps of the meditation before I do the meditation, because I've had that happen to me, where I've been jumped into a guided meditation that's turned out to be a bad idea because the person doing it either doesn't know what they're doing or isn't taking into consideration different backgrounds of the people that are in the room. One of the meditations that I was in school, they threw me in a room with my father. That did not go well. I was kind of unable to participate in my classes for the rest of the night because I was dealing with what they had brought up. So, visualizations and meditations can be very powerful. So that's why I do that. But then I do one with just that without any of the explanation. So depending on your view, you can jump in and figure it's going to be fine, or you can watch the earlier one and get the explanation first so you can decide for yourself, because I believe in free will. So Violet says, I absolutely love how you two work in harmony on video. It's so fun, and Ian is blooming. It is way, way cool, you two. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And it's true. He's getting more comfortable every week. Venus Claus says, I agree, B. And I agree, Violet. Tack One says, or I, though, candle also? Or you thought that might be for a candle? I guess. Is that
right? Probably, yeah.
Balloonhead says, I need to try a spell or something related to luck. I have a job interview tomorrow and I'm terrified and excited.
Well, if it's tomorrow, it's going to have to come up with something fast, so maybe a candle.
Yeah, and tomorrow is a
spell.
Monday, so it's a moon day. So you could light a candle tonight, do a white or silver candle, write on it that you want assistance to help you feel confident and finding your words and making a good impression, and if this is the right job for you, then you'll get the job, and if it's not, then there's going to be something better to come, something like that.
Spend some time making sure that the candle absorbs
All
that.
those intent.
Absorbs that, yeah.
And then, light it in the morning before you go and ask the moon for some extra help, since the lunar energy seems to be very compatible with witches in general. We easily relate to that energy. So that's what I would recommend as a spur of the moment quickie thing to do. So Venus Claus says, come on guys, let's make a donation here. Ewu says, so neat, I caught y'all live again and I forgot my questions. Hope every is having a super Sunday. Thank you. And I'm sorry you forgot your question. Maybe it will come up later. Violet says, my giant garment is a white sweater from Fat Yarn. It winds up being 20 pounds. Wow, that's heavy.
For
It
sweater,
has a
yeah.
giant hoodie, and it will be an indoor sweater for wintertime. No kidding.
Nice. Glad we don't need anything like that up here on the coast.
Yeah, she's up in Portland area.
Oh.
So
Well,
she doesn't need it now, but in
even
the
so, it
wintertime,
gets-
they do get
they
snow.
get
And
colder than we do, yeah.
yeah,
Down here.
Phoenix Claus says a terribly fire day. Phoenix also says, I am impressed, Violet. Yes. I also made a white faux fur coat once, too. It must be a past life thing to love white fuzzy garments so much, and go-go boots. Yes. White long sweaters and go-go boots, and yes, that sounds fantastic. Balloonhead says, that was a great exercise. It's cool that you explained the process before. Good. You know what I'm talking about. That's awesome. Venus Claus said, to be or not to be? Apparently she's on a roll with bees. Tack 1 says, yep. Phoenix Claus says, I like your name, Tack 11. Looking for the video right now, he says, he or she says. Lulu says, silly may be, but I wear red under normal clothes if I need confidence. That's not a bad idea. Wearing a color that makes you feel confident, and then no one else can see it, so it's a secret confidence, you know. You can, like, think about it. You know, sort of like the magic underwear the Mormons wear, but different, because it's our magic. Balloonhead says, thank you, that's really helpful. Angelica says, I can't remember. Do you have a video on the moon? Yes, I do. Funny you're talking about the moon.
How did it get up there?
Huh?
How did it get up there?
The moon?
You had to have a video on the moon. How did it get up there?
Oh, I see. Sorry. That's me and my literal brain. And not being literal enough, apparently. No, I do not have a video on the actual moon, but I do have a video about the moon.
Sorry.
Yeah, I bet.
Coyote
Yes,
pops out every now and then.
Coyote likes that kind of stuff. But yes, I have a couple of videos about the moon, drawing down the moon, and just the moon in general. I need to do other planetary videos. I think I've only done the sun and the moon as a separate planetary video. And like I did separate videos on the elements, each element. So I have one for each of the elements and working with them. Trying to cover, there's so many subjects. It's just amazing.
Yes, there are. That's what's cool about it, though. You never run out.
Yep. Violet says, thanks, Phoenix. He says, it's cause of me, haha. Yes, it is. Phoenix Claus says, did you ever knew that Benny Hill started his career very early, like in the 50s? I probably knew that, but I don't care. And when he started. Balloonhead says, Lulu, that's a great idea, thank you. Violet says, it's funny you talk of bees. My neighbor had a bee kill her bulldog recently.
Oh.
I had given her a gift with a bee on it, and I later traded her for a ladybug because it bothered me so much. Ha! I love bee. Violet says, bee is all over my house, and bee yard made my sweater, too. Okie dokie. Yard is yarn. Bee yarn made my sweater. Okay. That makes more choice, or more sense. So Phoenix says, I'll have no choice but to invoke 200 demons so that one of them can help me in my money affairs. See, I was on a roll about birds and the bees. Aha. Okay, you do you.
Juan Duquette has one he mentions in his book that he invoked for prosperity that worked pretty well, apparently.
Good for
In the
him.
end.
That's not the one that, like, caused the water exploding in his house, or
No, that was a whole nother deal.
that was a whole, or the fire. There was one with oil and fire, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. No, the
Phoenix Claus says,
Abramelin
okay,
oils.
then 300 demons. All right. The more the merrier.
No, one of them was Orobos, which is the small horse, and that's the one that caused, it showed up as a small horse to his clairvoyance, and that's the one that caused the, according to his book, mind you, he didn't tell me this in person or anything.
Violet knew that.
Ah,
Was that the black
Yes.
horse Ouroboros? Yes.
yes.
It was the little black horse. Phoenix
Yep.
Claus says, if the demon doesn't give me what I want or fail, I'll kick his sorry butt. Phoenix Claus says, Ouroboros? No, it's what Violet says. Ouroboros.
Yeah, spelled Orobas, which is
This is how Violet spelled
not
it.
related to the world serpent.
Or the eating its own tail thing. It just sounds
right,
similar.
Not at all. So yeah.
Violet says, I read that Lon book because you told me about it. I loved it.
Well, he does. He's an entertaining writer because he goes through a number of misadventures, but I would probably prefer to avoid most of the misadventures in this first place. But it is entertaining, yes, and useful to learn from.
Angelica says, no bees today, but I stepped on a dragonfly at the pool today, and my husband said, you just killed that dragonfly. I felt so bad, I just wasn't looking down. I'm sorry that you killed a dragonfly.
Things happen, though, you know.
They do.
If you think about it, I mean, something like that, I mean...
I've been seeing a lot of dead crows on the road, and it's kind of interesting the way their bodies end up. There's always one feather sticking straight up like this out of the corpse. The ones that I've seen on the road, and I'm wondering if that's like a warning flag for other crows. Because one of them, it's just been there for a while, and it's like, this is not a safe spot like we thought it was. It was in one of those, recovery lanes, or, lanes, the turn lane kind of thing.
That they get,
yeah. And I imagine that the crows had watched that the traffic went by and didn't go in that lane, and then one crow did, and it didn't get out. But oh well. So Tack One says she. Well, that's what some people think, that dragonflies are fae. I think the she are bigger than a dragonfly, slightly different type of fae. Phoenix Claw says, okay, then in order to now upset people, I'll change this to I invoke 300 angels. Still, I'll kick their butt if they fail. Joke. Okay. It's okay, Angelica. Death is part of life, and it's a renew for that creature. It's in paradise now and happy. Well, if it has any awareness of where it's at. Insects, I'm not sure. I haven't died with an insect. I've only died with a cow. And the animals have like a place that they go that's just where all of their spirits come from, the same substance. I don't know how to describe it. I called it the great cowness.
Well, hey, that works.
Yeah.
And Barden backs that up, by the way, in his books.
Which I thought was interesting because you only told me that for the first time.
Well, I only discovered it for the first time because it's in one of the descriptions of the beings in his second book. And since he's got,
1,000 or so of them?
Just the Earth zone alone, he lists like
400.
368, something like that.
Or something.
Yeah, just for the Earth zone. And then you've got all the other planetary zones and things.
And then the elemental zones and... Yep. So, Tanya says the dead crows might be because of the bird flu that is spreading pretty badly in the Pacific Northwest. No, it was hit by a car, and it could have been sick and landed in the wrong spot, got hit by a car, I suppose, but I think it's just likely a car accident.
Around here they like to pick up scallops and things from the ocean, and then they drop them on the cement to crack them open.
And then they put them on my lawn as presents.
Yep.
I'm getting like shells, which is kind of cute. Angelica says the dragonfly and I were in a traffic jam. Yep, that's pretty much it. Ewu says I have a daddy long legs hanging out in my bathroom. Any special meaning behind that? You have mold. Because that's what they eat.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Daddy long legs eat mold.
Oh.
So that would be what it means.
Oh, that would be why in the bathroom.
That would be why in the bathroom.
Did not know that.
Phoenix Claw says traffic yam or jam, a huge difference. Balloonhead says I always think about fairies when I see new flowers. I just found out today that we have a hibiscus plant out in our backyard. Awesome. Hibiscus are beautiful. Phoenix Claw says I eat dead crows each week. I can't have enough money for food. Violet says I received 2 crow talons, feet. I painted it gloss black and gave it purple sparkles on the talons. Then I used the black glue gun and mounted it to a fine silver piece. I can hang it or wear it. Sounds lovely.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. I joined a crow group, so it's been kind of fun. It's I Love Crows is the name of the group, and there's lots of people who have stories about interacting with crows and stuff like that. So Ew says, ew, yikes about the daddy long legs eating mold. Thanks for that tip. Sorry. That's the scientist in me. Mystically speaking, I'm not sure what a daddy long leg means. Spiders have got, they're weavers and they're related to Greek mythology, and
it's probably an entire big subject on its own.
Probably.
I know nothing about. Yeah.
Phoenix Claw says, not dead cows, dead crows. Also a huge difference. Man, when I entered the chat, I picked up the humor vibe. Apparently so. And the, what do you call that? The mouth mumble? Jumbling around. Yes, double entendres, etc., etc. Here they go. Whee!
Well, hey, as long as it's all in good fun.
I like humor. Yeah, when I was living in a house, back when it says they're more than that though, right? You mean more than just eating mold? Or more than cows or crows? Because we've said a lot of animals here. I'm not sure what we're talking about at this point. But now I lost what I was going to say. It went out of my head. So we'll move on. Whatever that was, it's gone. Gone, gone, gone. So, eaten. They eat more than that, yes. No, I don't think that daddy longlegs eat anything other than mold. I think that's pretty much their main thing. But look it up and find out, since I'm not an entomologist and a specialist in all the food needs of...
They have very delicate teeth, and they can't bite a person because they can't bite through your skin. They say
are the most poisonous spider
that's
on
what
the
they
planet.
say, yeah.
Yeah. If only they could bite us, we'd be dead.
I've always wondered if that means you shouldn't eat one because maybe you die from the venom. I don't know. I'm not going to try it and find out. Don't do it.
Phoenix Claw says, I lost it too. Says they eat, yes. Yes is a creature. Balloonhead says vegetarian spiders. Well, I don't know. Is mold vegetarian? I guess it is a plant type.
Yeah, if it's mold, it's a fungus. If it's bacteria, that's something else. That would be, alive. But yeah, mold is a fungus, so.
They're vegan spiders.
Maybe so.
Their mouths are too small. I eat spiders, big, fat, and juicy. Yuck. She calls demons and angels and eats spiders and crows and cows and dragonflies. I don't know. Fungus spider crows? Man, I'm getting hungry. Ewu says, I just read about them. Daddy longlegs are not poisonous or a spider. They're related to ticks and scorpions.
Oh.
Oh, interesting. So that was a rumor about their poisonous thing. Well, that happens. There's a lot of things that are common knowledge that turn out to be wrong. That one says to bite people. Their mouths are too small to bite people.
Could be. I'll tell you what,
I think our skin is too thick.
Those broad mites that infected my plants have little tiny mouths, but they
sure did get
plant.
your plants.
Yep.
Balloonhead says fungus, spider, crow casserole. Phoenix Claw says I like also ticks, but it takes a huge amount for a meal. Casserole? Oh man, now I'm getting hungry again. Okay, so chocolate covered ants and grasshopper pie. Hell, bring it, I'll eat it. If you were in Japan, you go over really well because insects is a definite part of their cuisine.
There's a lot of stuff I don't want to eat though.
Yes.
They have this one thing that's supposed to be very delicious, but because they put eels in boiling water with a block of tofu in the middle, and the tofu is cold, so they burrow into the tofu and then die in there, and then that's how they eat it. And it's like, I don't want to eat something that's been like tortured to death, dives into the middle of a piece of tofu, and it's like, just not energetically. I just wouldn't care for that, regardless of how it tastes. Right. We should probably change it.
Yeah, I think we need to get off of the insects and all the other stuff and food type things. This is supposed to be a magic channel, not a gourmet alternative food style network. Orion says, hi all, a bit off of an off-topic question, but has anyone ever felt suddenly disconnected to their spirituality, unable to feel the energy around you anymore? If so, what did you do to reconnect? Well, I think that's happened to me on occasion. I can't really remember it at this point because at this point I don't think it could happen. But what I would do would be to go out into nature. A lot of times that kind of disconnect means that you're going through a transformation process. You're rearranging your brain, how it thinks about stuff, and how you see the world and so forth. And it can feel like a sudden cessation of everything. And I know, like for myself, when there's a huge giant shift going on, apparently I get very, very still. It's like I become like this still point in space and time where nothing is moving at all while I'm arranging everything around that spot.
Yeah, and it helps to, if you're out where you're not around media and stuff, no TV to listen to, silence, keep your brain silent.
And you know, sometimes it means that you're changing your definition of what spirituality means, because really we are spirit. So existing, we are spirit. So if you're alive or not alive, you're still spirit. And the idea of spirituality is some kind of external thing that we're putting over top of that. And the trick is to get into the spirit and let it bloom out from the inside. And then it's not something that can go away, because it's that. So take it as an opportunity to explore that kind of idea and not worry about it, because existence and reality doesn't depend upon your definition of it. It is whether you want it to be or like the way it is, or nothing about reality and the universe is dependent upon our view of it. And so if we can learn not to worry about our view so much and think that our view is the thing that defines reality, then we can actually exist in reality and experience it for what it is instead of for how it's been defined. So this could be a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good description of that. I like the way you put that.
Yeah. So that's what I would suggest. Tanya says, oh my gosh, Orion, yesterday I felt so disconnected and unraveled in general. Tack1 says, but magic includes spider, snakes, and bats, right? Well, they're animals and they exist and they're part of reality, so it includes everything that is existence. So yeah, magic includes that too. Phoenix Claw says, I agree, Tanya. I suspect the toxic energy around which has a purpose of making us feel disconnected. Venus Claw says, yes, they do. And ravens also. Everything that exists. Again. Anya says, I feel like this connection and untethered feeling might be from when our energy is too self-centered. Well, that depends. I mean, being in the center of yourself is different than being self-centered. Self-centered is sort of an ego description, and being centered within yourself is a place of being, non-being, that is just in existence.
A place of calmness, and it's
stillness.
Beyond. It doesn't have to do with thinking.
Right.
It's beyond thinking and
it's
thoughts.
Just being.
Yeah.
Have you made anything with the shells the crows gift you? No. I'm just collecting them at this point. I'm hoping for a diamond ring. I keep putting it out there. It's like, if you're going to give me pretty shiny things, how about some jewelry I could pawn or wear or something? Would be nice. Venus Claus says, Tanya, you might want to take a salt bath. Lots of salt, and it will help. Salt is definitely really good for getting out impurities and grounding yourself and relaxing too, which is nice. Jack 1 says, Phoenix Raven is the English translation of our family name. Cool. Really? Well, in that case, let's meet. Stillness is awesome feeling. And well, stillness is, I like stillness myself, but yeah, stillness is frightening for some people when they're not used to it, because activity gives you movement, direction, things to do, external focus, and when that drops away, then you're left with just yourself. It brings up a lot of things.
Yeah, if you can get to that point, it gives you a real sense of clarity that you can then use for a touchstone, and for several days even before you have to go and renew the experience.
Balloonhead says, the biggest thing I try to do when I'm like that is not force anything. and maybe use it as an exploratory time. Like if you're disconnected, it might be easier to gain a new perspective. Yes. Ooh says maybe the crows will bring you a pearl next time. Yeah, that would be oysters. I don't think that scallops have pearls in them, but that would be nice. Angela says, hey everyone, how are you all? Apparently obsessed with all kinds of things this week. Balloonhead says, hi Angela. Venus Claus says, when in stillness you feel you stop time and the third eye is also more active. Well, yeah, you can see things more clearly because you're not like outwardly focused so much. Tack One says, hi Angela. Sorry you joined us at the end. We only have a few minutes left, so if you have a question, I encourage you to ask it now.
Yep, now's a good time to
before we have to wind things up. But yeah, I mean, I once experienced super stillness as like a channel, and I didn't care for that experience much. It was like different from the other kind of stillness I'm thinking about. Angela says, hi everyone, and same as the prettiest crystal at a crystal shop recently. Couldn't get it though. It was iris agate. So pretty. It looked like a rainbow trapped in crystal clouds.
Well, that sounds cool.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. Angelica says, some people stay busy for avoidance. Yes, absolutely. Because if you're moving and distracted and busy, you don't have time to be quiet and still, you can avoid whatever is percolating inside your head. People who have a hard time being quiet and still often have things that they're not dealing with.
And like I have panic attacks in which you just can't be quiet or still.
Yep.
It's just, and so I get busy. One of my best things to do during that is to occupy myself with something involving my hands. Keeps me too busy to think.
So Phoenix says, through my third eye experiences, I could see behind me. Amazing feeling. Yep, that is cool. Tanya says, self-centered is, as in focus, is too much on self and what is happening inside rather than not seeing how we are connected to the greater universe. Can't explain it well, but resonate with the suggestions.
I think that explains it well. I mean, ideally, though, and this is kind of a coyote thing that I'm going to put it this way, that if you do it right, by focusing thoroughly on yourself, you find out that you are the universe and connected to it. So that's kind of the goal of a lot of those introspection things. It's actually to make that connection with the outer universe, but that's one method of doing it. The other method is, of course, going out into the outer universe directly and experiencing things that way. But then a lot of times that's what causes us problems instead of getting us out of them. So
balance.
But both methods are really the same way, the same thing in the end. When you're talking about that enlightenment or freedom, whatever term you use.
Well, Lulu says, me too, Ian. I prefer crocheting when I need to calm my mind. And yeah, we put my tree that I beaded and Ian's painting he did into the fair yesterday. So we'll see how the community responds to that. Orion says, I think you're completely right about that big transformation part. I had a health scare, panic attacks. I tried going into nature and meditating, but I can constantly hear and feel my heartbeat. That'd be kind of distracting.
Yeah.
Angela says, Violet, love, blessings. As Violet says, Angela, love, love. Yeah.
Oh, hey, love is a good thing.
Venus Claus says, well, Orion, the heartbeat can be slowly dealt with using crystals. I used them and they helped. Which crystals did you use? Tack One says, I don't think I focus on myself enough. Problem why I have pain in the butt syndrome.
Yeah, well, it's like everything else. Everything in the universe is a balance. Ideally, when you're ideally poised inside, you're also quiet and you can become fully aware of the outside universe in a way you never could before. It is an initiatory experience and it can change a person's life completely. But that is tantamount on reaching that quietness where there are no thoughts and you're just there. You're not doing anything. That's the important part, is to not be doing anything on any level. You're there. You're in nature. You're not doing anything. You're not thinking about something. You're not planning something. You're just there. Sorry.
I don't think that you should apologize for that. That sounded perfect to me. Phoenix Claw says, I used for crystals black tourmaline and shungite. Shungite reprograms the carbon parts of our body and cleanse all water-based organisms. So if that works for
The tourmaline is
Orion.
good for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I have some black tourmaline. Well, I don't have it on right now. I have the obsidian on. But yeah, I have some black tourmaline too. Anya says, Lulu, I love crocheting too, been getting into cross stitching too. Oh, just got inspired to do some rituals with the act of stitching. Well, the piece I just finished is the Celtic creation myth, and it was definitely an act of ritual when I made making it, thinking about the process and everything that was in it. Orion says, thank you, Phoenix. I'll try that out. Violet says, love you guys. Thanks for your time. You're a true treasure to share yourselves. I wish you a blessed week ahead. Thank you very much.
Blessed be to you and everyone else too out there.
And yes, we are on the other side of our hour and a half here. So welcome to write us in, write in any questions you might have. Check out any of our videos, make comments. My email is shifrasmagicalcove@gmail.com. And I have a Facebook page, Siofra Bradigan, so you can always send me a friend's request on that, and we can communicate that way too. So everybody enjoy. Have
Blessed
a lovely
be
time.
everyone. Apparently I can't write that. Okay. My typing wrote nothing.